Kohlbacher,
Here.
Craig Maximiak,
Here.
Dennis Moore,
Here.
Brian Mulhern, Joe Vlosek,
Here.
Dave Masick,
Here.
Ken Blackburn.
Here.
And we waive the Pledge of Allegiance because we're not in person. We're in public input, and if you're not aware, our future Commissioner Frank Florentine has dialed in, and so we welcome him to the meeting tonight. First board meeting he'll be attending, and hopefully he'll be able to do this into the future so that he's up to speed when we transition. The way that will probably work is the election will be canvassed in April, and then he'll be actually sworn in at our organizational meeting in May. Frank, welcome, and is there anything you'd like to add under the section of public input?
No, not at this time. You know, Jim, you and I
Okay.
had a chance to talk, so appreciate it.
Yep. So at any time you have any questions, don't ask them because it's a public meeting and it's closed unless you're part of the board. But after the meeting's over, we'll have a time. If you had anything come up, we can go through it then, or feel free to give me a shout. All right.
Yep.
We have no correspondence tonight, and we're presenting the minutes from the December 10th, 2020 public hearing for approval. I need a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion.
This Ken.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Pam Kohlbacher,
Yes.
Craig Maximiak,
Yes.
Dennis Moore,
Yes.
Joe Vlosek,
Yes.
Dave Masick,
Abstain.
Ken Blackburn.
Yes.
I'm also presenting the minutes from the December 10th, 2020 board meeting. I need a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion, Dennis Moore.
Second, Joe Vlosek.
I think I have a Joe Vlosek second.
Yes.
Roll call.
Pam Kohlbacher,
Yes.
Craig Maximiak,
Yes.
Dennis Moore,
Yes.
Joe Vlosek,
Yes.
Dave Masick,
Abstain.
Ken Blackburn.
Yes.
Under legal report, we provided the intergovernmental agreement for Summit Hill School District 161 facilities with the Frankfurt Square Park District. I need a motion and a second for consideration, and then we can go into discussion.
I'll make a motion.
Dave Masick,
Yes.
I need a second.
Ken will second. I'll second.
How about Dennis Moore gives us a second? Under discussion, we originally entered into this agreement 2 years ago, and it comes due in July. We were wanted to put into this agreement a longer term, so you'll notice a 10-year term rather than the previous 2. Other things were this is a longer walk away, so you have up to a year to walk away from the agreement rather than the shorter term that was in before. It sunsets any fees and charges as was previously discussed. This is our agreement. We had our attorney take the old agreement, rewrite it, and so if we approve it tonight, we'll forward it to Summit Hill, which they've already received a draft copy of it for consideration, but we'll forward a signed copy, and then they can push it back to us with amendments or corrections in it if they choose to do so. But our hope is that they just move on it and we're done with it. Is there any questions or input as to this agreement?
Yeah, this is Dave. I guess I noticed that 10 years versus what it was in the past. And is that, I guess that was a goal we had? Because I thought it was hard to, and again, I could be wrong, boards approving things beyond their terms, if I'm saying that correct. You know, some of us are going to be re-upped for 4 years. Some of us get 2 more years, and we're putting something on future boards. Is that?
The ability, And the difference being is that we have the ability to walk away from the lease agreement with a year notice. So as much as it's a 10-year term, any future board could elect to walk away from it if they chose to do so. So we could go up to a 20-year term on this, on a intergovernmental like this, as long as a walk-away clause exists within the document, is the way I understand it without being an attorney. But Ansel Glink reviewed it and said it's good to go.
Yeah, no, and I get that, and I'm not an attorney.
And is that either party can walk away?
Remember that.
Yeah, either party can walk away from the agreement with a year's notice. So either if Summit Hill decides they have use for the space, when they notify us, then we have a year to vacate. Same way with us. If we notified them that we were leaving, we'd have and from our standpoint, there's no financial commitment to this. So our walk away could take place anytime. We just wouldn't use the facility. We have a restoration clause in that, so we would have to take out the improvements that we'd made and restore a brick wall. But after that, we'd be done. So our walk away has less impact than, say, theirs would. If they walked away, we wouldn't have the facility for programming. And then, you know, my backup there is, well, as of right now, we've got Lincoln Way. So anything that took place at Mary Drew could be transferred to Lincoln Way. I'm not saying it'd be easy, but it's possible. And that's not an air-conditioned facility and other things. So there's absolutely limitations with that. But there's a possibility of having programming space if we were to lose this. I would hate to see it come to that, but you never know with, you know, boards change and stuff, and away you go. The one thing the Park District never did was we never built facility for our programming, because the idea was, and I think Pam said it best today, we've had a good working relationship with both Summit Hill and Lincoln Way for 40 years. And both of them have built facilities. I mean, hundreds of thousands of square feet of space that's been available. So for the Park District to replicate that makes no sense. You're double paying tax dollars for space that would basically sit unused during the year. So as long as our groups and organizations are getting along, then the community saves a ton of money and has some really outstanding facilities. Problem is, if the community groups or the organizations don't get along, then, you know, it puts us in a worse situation. So with that being said, you know, hopefully we can get this signed off on and we can just move forward like we are now and see what happens in the future. I think they're going to be looking at some hard decisions into the future. I think they're facility heavy, and whether it's cost effective to keep all of their facilities open is probably questionable. So in the future, I would look to school closures maybe, and then if that was to happen, there may be a different opportunity available to us then. But they haven't done anything with that. It's kind of been put on hold with the pandemic. That's probably something a future board at the school district will have to deal with. Are there any other questions related to this agreement?
So if that's the case, Jim, let's say buildings become unavailable to us because they do close, and that affects our programming. There's an opportunity then to kind of rework our agreement so that it reflects, you know, our no longer being there.
Sure. Absolutely. Okay. Right now, we provide a myriad of services. We've built facilities at all the schools. We maintain campuses throughout the district. And there's board members that diminish that. They don't believe that's a cost or not a value. But we've showed that it is. We pay for it every year, and it's substantial. But yeah, I mean, I would hate for that to ever come to that. And I think that 1 year allows kind of a cooling down period, and for the public to be made aware of decisions, and then for there to be a better dialogue if there was an initial reactionary decision. But like I said, you've seen it happen both ways, so I have no idea how how it would move forward. But hopefully they'll
Okay.
sign this and we won't have to talk about it for 10 years.
Oh, let's hope so.
Yeah. Any other questions from board members related to this? Okay, if it's been moved and seconded, so I'd call for a roll call.
Pam Kolbacher,
Yes.
Craig Maximiak,
Yes.
Dennis Moore,
Yes.
Joe Vlosek,
Yes.
Dave Masek,
Yes.
Ken Blackburn.
Yes.
You're all in receipt of the treasurer's report and the fund balance summary. I'd ask for a motion to adopt the accounts payable listing submitted.
I'll make the
I'll make
motion.
that motion.
Pam makes the motion and Dave Masek makes the second, if I heard that right.
Yes.
Okay, roll call.
Pam Kolbacher,
Yes.
Craig Maximiak,
Yes.
Dennis Moore,
Yes.
Joe Vlosek,
Yes.
Dave Masek,
Yes.
Ken Blackburn.
Yes.
I'll note that the treasurer's report provided still puts us in a positive cash position over last year, somewhere between 200 and 300,000 to the positive. So that if all things were equal, we ended the year at 440. So we're probably looking somewhere in the neighborhood of between 5 and 6, depending on how winter projects go and we don't have any unforeseen expenses. Executive director's report. Under maintenance, the primary project this week is at the golf course, and we're digging out the irrigation pond. It's an extensive project, and we're putting a liner underneath the inlet for the irrigation water that flows into the pump house to prevent the problem of siltation that we had last year. It takes a 6-inch pump to dewater the entire pond, and then 2 backhoes. They've done some tree removal around that pond to prevent that from getting into the suction there too. And if you remember last year, there were a couple of weeks there where we had to bring in divers to clean out that inlet point because of the siltation that's taken place there. So this hopefully will be a longer term solution to that. The maintenance staff have done a real good job with the snow this year, have been right on top of it, and we've received positive input from the approach we're taking with the paths. They're plowed in a timely fashion to get people back out on them. And if you'll notice when you're walking, we're using a sand and salt mixture, so it's not as damaging to the grass adjacent to that, but it will keep them clear and it'll give you some traction, so the people tend to be using them all year long. They're prepping the maintenance areas and all equipment in preparation for this season, and we're going to be reviewing a master project list. We're trying to develop a 2-year project list of things that we've talked about, discussed, and have them in a go position, so that all we would need would be the funding, and we could move forward with either the grant or the grant and or financing to complete those projects. I hope to present that master list at the February meeting. I'm meeting with the maintenance staff next week. Right now it's bullet points of all the projects we've talked about, and then over the next 2 months, they're going to be providing the detail, the contacts, the equipment, the materials, all the things that it would take to make the variety of projects go, whether it be asphalt repair, playground installations. We talked about a T-ball field at Kiwanis Park. I don't remember the total number of projects we had there, but it was, 40 or 50. And then in March or April, we'll determine what the budget is for the upcoming fiscal year and where the priorities lay, and then move forward on, how many we can afford for next year. Like I said before, our debt service is being retired. And this year's, we've got some things going on we'll talk about next month at the February board meeting, but the outlook is really good for having probably somewhere between $400,000 and $500,000 a year to do capital improvements, which should keep us current with the fix and repairs of the park district, but also improving and adding facilities into the future. So that's kind of exciting. The the maintenance staff is excited about that. If you dialed in early to the meeting, you might have heard that the state came out with, we jumped 2 tiers in the mitigation process, which means a day ago we couldn't have in-person classes. Today, the next step we thought would be is we could have up to 10 in a classroom, including the instructor, socially distanced with a mask. Jumping 2 tiers, we can actually go to 25 participants in a location if we're able to socially distance and employ the normal mitigations there. So Nicolette, who has been fielding a lot of the questions from parents and teachers at the dance program, immediately got that fired up, and they're having in-person programs tonight, which makes everybody happy. I've also had a conversation with Wildcats football today, and I went into that conversation thinking I'm going to say, well, right now the tier is 0, so we can't really move forward with anything. Literally 10 minutes before that call, I got the awareness that they'd changed this, and it changes dramatically how we can function into the future. They're looking to start somewhere the end of February, and we can offer them an indoor opportunity at Lincoln Way North, and then they were going to look at the stadium field as their primary location to save the grass. You know, IHSA, I had a conversation with Dr. Tingley today, has a meeting next week to hopefully give some clarification on what are considered contact sports. Contact sports would be basketball, football, volleyball, and wrestling, and what kind of season they'll be able to have. Up until this point, they haven't been able to generate a season because of the close proximity you would have to participants. So that will be a primary determining factor on how I think we'll be able to move forward, because that'll be a state deal. The state will determine how best to let those programs happen or not happen. So we'll look forward to seeing what comes down with that. Along with that, we would anticipate baseball and cheerleading again coming into at the same time football does. IT, we're working on, or Bonnie's working on the new rec track migration to take place in June. They had a meeting with rec track, and our IT professional is transferring data to the cloud and doing all kinds of wonderful things. We're also looking at, we have an old computer lab in the preschool that still has CPU-based units for preschoolers, and with the change in technologies, the schools are now using tablets and the internet. So we're looking at updating that facility so it'll be more usable for our preschool next year. We're also looking into a new server, replacing what we have now with a simpler, adaptable system, and we'll have more information on that with the budget. All of these areas that generate budget impact will be detailed as a project with the new budget that we will act upon in April. I hope to have all the projects before you in March, so that you're making the determination of what the priorities are for the district. Special recreation, the good news is that the staff's been approved for vaccinations, and that should be soon. They, for some reason, they're working closely with an at-risk population, so they're able to get vaccinations for COVID, and they're all excited about that. We included a schedule of debt service, and as you can see, 2 primary debts at the golf course will be paid off over the next 2 years also. One of them this year and another one the following, which is great. But what it does too is that the last year of one of those debt issuances, it's a higher impact than previous years, it's a larger payout. We may look to using some of our fund balance at the end of this fiscal year to pay down on that, so we have a more normal operating budget and we're not incurring a larger debt on that golf course, and we can pay it off over time. But that's, once again, a determination that the board will make in the coming months. It's difficult to do a budget overview remotely. So I'm glad to see that we can probably meet in person in February, even if it's from a distance, because I'll spend most of that meeting reviewing the draft copies of the budget. You've really received like the second or third draft that the staff has worked on, and that will be revised again before the February meeting, and I'll review key points of the budget for the next fiscal year at that time. We should also, the basic schedule is that we present the budget at the February meeting. We review projects and full-time salary consideration at the March meeting, but we also have the ability, we generally will know the equalized assessed valuation update from Cook County, our primary funding source, in the beginning of March. And then we act upon the budget at the April meeting, approving it for the new fiscal year. If anyone has any questions related to that, you're always welcome to give me a call. Golf course, Top Tracer and TSNAP are being overviewed. There's been multiple online resources to discuss how those went last year at the golf course. I'm proposing no annual passes for the next season. What we found, it was more beneficial to the district because of the scheduled tee times not to have memberships that we found generated not a whole lot of money for the amount of usage that they received. And one of the things related to that staff will report is that that user was really problematic in terms of getting them to comply with general courtesies on the golf course. They tend to be owners and didn't always track hole to hole. They golfed every day of the week. They jumped the golf course. They wouldn't schedule tee times and all those kinds of things. So it's something we can discuss about, but I'm putting it out there at the January meeting so that in February and March you can think about it and give us input as to whether the board supports that action or not. I talked about the correction of the irrigation pond. There is also a possibility down there to expand that pond, which would create more volume, which would be great. Right now, we really meter our irrigation water during the summer because we don't want to run low, and we only feed that irrigation system with I think it's a 4-inch well. So either 4 or 6, not really the standard well used at a golf course, but it's adequate for our purposes and for our course. But there's a possibility on the 7th hole to expand the area in front of the old 7th tee to create a water feature that you'd have to play across. So then it would give you 2 plays from that hole. You could play the harder side across the water to the green, or you could play the softer side, which would have a grass fairway all the way from the tee to the green. But we can talk about that at a future time too. The good thing about it is if we haul all the material out, which we basically need material at Kiwanis for a berm we're projecting to be included in that T-ball field, the permitting is minimal. The problem with excavation in a wetlands or floodplain is if the material is left on site, you lower the overall compensatory water storage and the permitting is a lot harder. But if you haul the material out, it's much simpler because you're creating more storage in a wetland or floodplain. Office has been training Shelley, our new future office manager. And help me with the last name there, Linda.
It's Wanties.
Yeah, we all remember her from being the secretary at the Lincoln Way North Athletic Department, and she's hit the ground running and doing a great job, and Bonnie's been working with her on a daily basis. So we anticipate her being up to speed, hopefully by the time we reopen to the public in the not too distant future. They also are detailing the brochure and programs that are changing almost on a daily basis and communicate with our residents that are participating or who have questions. We had an all-district PDERMA meeting in December. There's all kinds of things going on with risk management, and I think Dave's aware of a lot of it. But all of the things related to the pandemic created new exposure. The differences in budgets because of layoffs and all the things that impact the insurance market are included in that. So one of the things that we really benefited was from a small staff. We just heard that Downers Grove, I believe, laid off 12 or 13 people in their recreation department. Well, if we only have 2 people in our recreation department, it's a lot easier to keep them busy. We don't have a human resources person or a full-time bookkeeper or 5 full-time bookkeepers. So it was easier to keep our people because of the size of the district and us going into contracted services. We revamped the bookkeeping team to have part-time positions there, although we do have a full-time position on the docket that hasn't been filled yet, and we probably will fill in the next year. We contracted maintenance for the parks and properties, which was a tremendous benefit, which we talked about before. We contracted maintenance for the facilities. When the facilities were no longer in use, we just stopped the contract because there was no need, and we didn't have to unemploy people because of that. So I think we have a pretty cost-effective operation, but we do miss the 70-plus part-time people that support all the programming within the district. Community updates. I hear there's a Whole Foods going in Tinley Park by Waltz. I think that's the building that's being built there. The apartment building on 191st Street is still under construction slowly, and they are revising that plan to make sure that there's a path connection to the Park District Trail system. With that being said, the only FOIA we received was for information related to all our board members. And that's an annual thing. Was that on the ballot, Linda, or just general information on commissioners?
Just general information on commissioners with contact info, which is always through the Park District.
Yep.
And they want to know too if they are compensated in any way, and of course it's all volunteers. Yep.
So you guys, we can double your pay every year forever and never be in have a financial problem. Under new business, no old business. Under new business, the first draft of the budget has been submitted to you for review, and then we can go through commissioner comments. I think I wrote everyone down here. So we can go through the regular roll call for that, Linda, if any board members have comments.
Okay, that's Pam Kohlbacher.
Yes, no comments though.
Okay.
Craig Maximiak.
No comments from me. Thank you.
I just have a couple of a comment and then a question. A comment is great job by the maintenance staff on clearing the pathways. I was out there, I think, twice over the weekend, and normally on snowy days like that, you have to kind of get off into the grass so you're not slipping around and stuff. But it was really well done, timely. I think I was out there by Saturday or Sunday by 9 o'clock, and it was just awesome. Cleaned up all the way around the schools. It was great to see people sledding and families out there enjoying that. So kudos to you, Jim, and the rest of the staff. then my question is, I was driving by the Romeoville Park District this year. My mom lives out that way, and around the holidays, and I don't know if you're aware, but they did an awesome job of decorating. You were able to drive through it. People were, getting out of their cars and taking pictures, and it was just really impressive. I was wondering if that's something that we could maybe put on, on a wish list or a consideration for maybe community park, really doing that up, all the trees and something like that. I don't know if that's something that is possible or doable or.
Yeah, absolutely. We can find out, what we do when a board member gives us an idea like that. I think Al Grybeck, was he at Romeoville? I think he was the superintendent. I'm not sure. I could be wrong on that, but he may have some experience, or he was from that area, so we can investigate how that actually takes place. A lot of times that's a contracted service to do the installation, or it's staff service. I don't know either which, but we can figure out what it would cost to highlight an area like that, and then see how it would fit into the budget and present it back to the board for consideration. So absolutely, we'll take a look.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to go online and see if they have any pictures of it. It was really, really impressive. But
it was Romeoville. Yeah, Romeoville Park District.
Yeah, it was on about 135th and just maybe a mile east of Weber. It's a pretty big facility there.
Okay.
But I'll look online and see if they have any pictures or anything. But maybe it was something they did this year with COVID and everybody in lockdown mode. So, but I thought it was really well done. Something to consider.
And we have the paths going through that area too. And then we have multiple electric services, because there's an electric service for the gardens in the back. And then there's also an electric service for the pumps and the fountains that go into the, so we have electric there anyway. So it's, we'd have to absolutely do some stuff to make it happen, but it's not like we don't have infrastructure already in place, So yeah, we'll check into it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's adequate parking there, or, So yes, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep.
Nothing else from me.
Okay.
Joe Vlosek,
I have nothing.
Dave Masek.
I know some of it's out of our control, but open up as fast as we can, and I'm glad to see how quickly we reacted today that we've got in person, right? Jim, you said we've got dance going in person tonight?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's, open up the world. That's happy to see it.
Maybe that's where Brian Mulhern's at.
Nicolette made she wanted to let everybody know they could come back tonight, but they also did it as a Zoom option too, just in case there was someone that couldn't make it. They were still able to dial in and participate in the program, and she's been really sharp. She was the one that really got working with Dave Gorka to make all that happen over there, and she's done a tremendous job dealing with all those folks and all their concerns about how quickly we can get back. They have competitions, I think, the beginning of March is their first one, and we're really hoping that they can, do what they need to do so that they can participate in those things again next year or this year, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, no, that's all I had.
Okay.
And Ken Blackburn.
I don't have anything to add.
The only other thing I'll add too is we're working on the survey with Jared Schuneman with Campfire Consultants, and we'll probably finalize that document sometime next week. And so when we do that, we'll send it out to the board for a few days for any final comments. If you don't have any, if you could just email us back that it's good to go, that'd be appreciated. After that happens, it'll go to the printer, it'll end up in mailboxes, and then we'll get the results yet this spring. So we're looking forward to seeing what happens there. I had planned on, I would prefer to do this executive session related to review of closed session minutes at a public meeting. So I'd like to defer that to the February meeting if that's okay. It's a little awkward to do a closed session on a teleconference like this. And with us being able to be in place next month, hopefully, that we'll be able to resolve that issue. And there's nothing of urgence there. I think the 2 minutes under consideration are both personnel and won't be released anyway, but it's better to do that in a public setting when anybody can be there if they want to. With that being said, the one thing I hate about these meetings is they go so fast because of, it's difficult to communicate in a teleconference like that. That's kind of why I'm looking forward to having a standard meeting, and it tends to be more contributory that way. So hopefully good things to come. But if no one had anything else, I'd accept a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Dave Masick motions to adjourn. Is there a second?
Ken will second.
I'll second.
Ken Blackburn seconds the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? None opposed. The meeting is adjourned. Thanks for all your help. All right.
Good night, everybody.
All right.
Bye.
Everybody.
Good night.
Good night.